This may or may not be live. Okay, it's showing live now.
All right, well, welcome everybody to Smart With Your Money Live. I'm Chase Peckham. I am the Director of Community Outreach and Education at the San Diego Financial Literacy Center, the education arm of DebtWave Credit Counseling, and we're very happy to have all of you here today and broadcasting to talk about how to read your credit report. I would also like to introduce my colleague, Felipe Arevalo. He is the Community Outreach Coordinator for the SDFLC. And a few things that I want to discuss before we go. We are going to take questions as we go. So if you do have the questions, please, if you're on Facebook, go ahead and drop them into Facebook. If you are joining us on the Zoom during the actual presentation, please just drop it into the chat and we will do our best to answer your questions. We will also have around 15 minutes for questions and answers afterwards. So we will have plenty of time to discuss it. Even if it isn't just about today's topic, we can try to get in an answer for you. So let's take it away, Phil. How to read your credit report.
Yeah, it's incredibly important. It's something that can be done very quickly. And with today's technology, I mean, you have it at your fingertips. It's always around you because you always have your phone. So, you know, how to read your credit report, and we'll get started here. First and foremost, you got to find a way to get your credit report. If you want your full credit report, we are normally, as consumers, authorized to receive, or we get to receive one free credit report per year for each of the 3 credit bureaus. And those 3 credit bureaus are Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. I'm sure you've heard of a few of them in the past. The website that you can get your free credit report at is annualcreditreport.com. Like I said, normally you get one free one per year. Due to COVID, due to the situation that we're all in, from now until April of next year, 2021, you can actually get your credit report for free once a week. Now, I'm not saying go pull all 3 of your credit reports once a week, every single week. That might be a little excessive. You're more than welcome to. But yeah, so it's a great feature that's out there. And Chase, I think there's a lot of consumers, a lot of people out there who don't realize that they do have that added access currently.
That's right. I mean, the reason that you want to take advantage of this, if you have a chance, is, I mean, we're all familiar with credit scores, right? We've talked about that before. We're going to talk about that again in a couple of weeks. And you can get your credit scores from your banks. There's so many ways to get them now, but the credit score just tells you a little piece of the pie, right? It just tells you a little bit of how good or bad you're doing, right? Or whether your credit is good or it's bad.
It's like your GPA in school.
That's right. And so the credit report is actually what information that different organizations, so if you have a credit card or if you have a bank loan that owns, your car loan or your home loan, this information, when we pay monthly, goes to these credit bureaus. And so you have this information that goes there every month to where your credit report is being built. So basically it's just like a giant book report, right? And every single one of us has these, as long as we have some type of credit. And it's not that we need to sit there and keep track, right? It's not like we need to sit there and go, okay, I hope I understand all of these things. But what is the real important reason that we need to look at these reports?
It's really a matter of trying to find those errors,
Correct.
to find that errors or, worst case scenario, fraud and identity theft that can be on your credit report. Credit reports have errors. If you haven't found an error on your credit report, there's a good chance at some point you will. And really, one of the last places you want to find out that there's an error or fraud or identity theft on your credit report is if you're sitting across the desk from someone trying to get credit for whatever it is that you're trying to purchase, whether it be a car or worse yet, if you're looking to start the home buying process. Because you really want to be on top of your credit report to catch those errors, catch that fraud or identity theft as soon as possible, so that you can start the process of, taking care of that situation.
Yeah, we were just in a conference this week, and more than half of all credit reports have mistakes on them, and big enough mistakes to have an effect on your credit report. So, and sometimes it's just misidentification. Sometimes it's just, as you mentioned, just bad people doing bad things. You using your line of credit, your name, your social security number somehow. They get a hold of that. So it's really important in that reason. Now, the reason that we're discussing this today as well is that most of the time when people pull their credit reports, it's like, boom, like what is all this information that's in front of me, right? So I think what we want to talk about is, what is the real important things that you look at? What is on your credit report? What do you need to look at and concentrate on first?
Yeah, if you've never looked at your credit report, you might pull your credit report and find that you have pages and pages of information to look through. So it's really, what we want to do is give you a breakdown of, what to look for.
So let's take a look at that.
Yeah.
So first things first is the identifying information. And this is really interesting because it can have, let's say your name is Charles, right? You could have your name, Charles, your middle name, your last name, and you could also have all the different maybe surnames that you go after. And I'm using my father's as an example because he goes by Cap. It could be Chuck. It could be all different kinds of things that it's really interesting how it can be distributing your name. My name's Chase, and look, there's not many ways to change my name, but they found a way.
There's a lot of ways to misspell my name.
There is. You also have your addresses, your current address. So it's typically where your bills are sent, but it can also have addresses from old residents. I was looking at my credit report not just the other day, and it still has residents from when I was in college. And I don't want to mention how long ago that was, but it was quite a while.
It's important to try and remember those too, because when you do pull your credit report, an annual credit report, they may use that information to verify your identity. And that's when they can get really tricky, because if you haven't lived there in a while, or you only lived there for a semester,
right,
and you answer that question incorrectly, there is a chance that they will make you, take further steps to prove your identity just to protect you, although it may cause a little bit of an inconvenience on your end.
That's right. And just so everybody knows, we're talking about the way you read your credit report. It's like you see social security number here on the screen. Nobody else is going to see that social security number. That's strictly for you. When somebody is pulling your credit and they're looking at your credit report for other reasons, they don't see that information. So that's not something that you should worry about. And we're going to really show you an actual credit report and what it looks like. But the other things that are on here are public records. Those tend to be on there in the next line. They put these by different sections. So that can be anything. Public record is anything like if you've been through a bankruptcy, if you haven't paid taxes and they're coming back after you with tax liens, if you've been in foreclosure on your house, if you've ever been sued, if you've been in an accident and the insurance that you had didn't cover it all, and now you have more that you're having to pay out monthly that it went through the courts, that information will be there. And if you don't have any of those things, that section is going to be blank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it really goes into your credit accounts, your trade lines. And this includes negative information, positive information, including, things, credit cards, loans, student loans, car loans. And it also includes the negative information like accounting collections, for example, that used to be a credit card and now it's in collections. The other thing with the credit accounts is if there's any negative information, that's going to float to the top. That's going to be what people see and what you see first and foremost with these. And another big piece, if you were with us when we did the credit score presentation, is it'll include your payment history, which will be big. And you want to make sure that, that's accurate and you don't have missed payments that shouldn't be on there, or things of that nature as well on your credit accounts.
Yeah, and I think it's important to say here, we have trade lines on there, and that is a technical term here in the financial world, you don't really need to worry about that. Really what that is you're looking at accounts. Are those accounts yours? Do you recognize these accounts that you have? And if you think that you might potentially be in collections and something like that happen, you might see an account that you don't recognize, but it will tell you that, okay, this is an account, but what is it related to? And typically on that new account that you might not recognize, it will tell you if it's related to an account that you currently or you had in the past.
Yeah, and when you're looking through them, you want to make sure that you're careful with, as you're going through, if you've never looked at it before, sometimes if you have like a store card or something along those lines, those may be provided to you as part of a bigger bank. For example, you have you might be saying, I only have an Amazon credit card. Where is that? Well, that could be a Chase Bank card.
Or HSBC.
Or yeah, so
banks that handle those accounts.
Lots of different accounts that are on there.
Right. And then the other thing that is on there is inquiries. And that is both inquiries, what are considered hard inquiries, which are when you apply for credit. And if that applies to your credit score a little bit. We've talked about that in the past. And then soft inquiries, you can actually look, because these credit reports are not built for just you and I. They are actually built for marketing. There are different organizations that fake or all that junk mail that you get with these different offers. They're looking at your credit reports and they're able to tell, oh, what accounts do you have? Who are you banking with? What kind of credit products do you have? And so they're going to offer you these different products that they have because they know that they would love to get you as a client. And those have nothing to do with your credit reports, but you can look on your credit report and see who is looking at your report. So Phil, let's go ahead and let's take a look at an actual report.
This is a sample of the first part where you're with your identifying information. As you'll notice, as Chase mentioned, you have the different names with the middle initial, with his, full name, and there could be a long list of them. You'll also notice the address, and occasionally that's where you'll see other addresses as well as some of your other personal identifying information. Some of this information may not be on your credit report. They may not have your phone number on file or things of that nature. So if you don't see some of it, it's okay. Don't be alarmed. You don't have to see all of it.
Right. All of the different bureaus, the 3 different bureaus, I believe this is an example of Experian.
This is an Experian one.
They're all very similar nowadays. But you got to understand that not all of your information as well will be on all 3 because some organizations will just send to certain ones. Most of your major credit products, your car, your home, most credit card companies, the major ones especially, will send to all 3. It's very rare. Typically, it's the smaller things that will send to 1 or 2.
Yeah, and so here we have some sample of what it may look like if you have some of the negative information on there, some like a judgment or a tax lien, or if you have a bankruptcy on there. And it'll just provide you more information along with the amount of money it is. It's going to give you more info on the court or a reference number, filing date, all that information that could be relevant to that particular account.
And remember, and I know this is a little bit difficult to see. We tried to blow it up as best we could for this. But remember, if you have any questions at any time or you need us to go back, please let us know. We will, and we can answer those questions as best you can. So this is real important. This is an actual account that I believe is a credited account. And it's basically showing the different things that you want to look at is it mine? Is this something that I recognize? You can see when it was open, but you can also see what you want to look at is what are your balances? Do they have the contact information right? But look at right down at the bottom where you see payment history, and you will see it has all the different months that you've paid. Usually it goes back anywhere from a year to a year and a half. And you can see that it's these little green things that are okay. That means you've paid on time. And then right up here at the very beginning, you'll see that in the yellow, very small yellow, that usually will say 30. And that means if you've gone late, if you've missed a billing cycle, that doesn't mean your bill came in and it was due on the 3rd and you paid it on the 5th. It will not be sent to your credit report and that. You have to go one full billing cycle, one whole month without paying before they will even think about sending it to your credit report. So don't freak out if you make a late payment. You're just going to have to incur that late fee,
Yeah, I always tell
which none
people
of us
it may
like to
have,
do.
I was gonna say it may have cost you money because you get hit
Right.
with a fee, and they may, increase your APR to some kind of penalty APR scenario. So it can get expensive, but you haven't ruined your credit if your due date was,
Correct.
Monday and now it's Wednesday and you
So
haven't
looking at
sent
the
anything.
bottom of that page, you want to look at that payment history. That payment history is really important. And if it's all green or it has these little OKs, you're in really good shape. The other one that you want to look at is where are you when it says, what is your current state? And you want that current state to say, that area to say current. That's where you want your account to say current. If it says it's behind or that it's delinquent, you know that that's a problem. That's the biggest one those are the biggest things that you want to look at. All that other information, it's a ton. Like you can see payment status there. All of that other stuff is minutia. Don't worry about it. You want to look at payment status. You want to look at, is the account yours and are you up to date?
Yeah, the other information is just there. Some of it you may be able to use to identify the cards if you're not
Right.
sure if you have that card, to see if it's an auto loan or a credit card or that kind of thing.
Correct.
So one of the things we wanted to touch on before we move on to questions is the availability of your credit history, your credit report on today's technology. Because there are so many options and features available, whether it be apps through third-party apps through your bank or credit union, where you have the availability you have your credit report there in a much more simplified way, in a manner that you can access it weekly if you wanted to, or every month, or whenever it is you schedule your payments, however you want to do it. But you have access to it. You don't have to go through pages and pages and pages of information. Right. Once you've looked at your credit report and you found an app or a service that you already have provided to you through your bank, credit union,
or your bank, right?
And once you have it set up, it'll notify you if you have any kind of changes. So as long as you don't see as long as you continue to get the notifications with the thumbs up, you're doing well, and you don't see that there's a new account open or a new missed payment or things of that nature, you're monitoring your credit report constantly, as long as you continue to receive those updates. Or sometimes it's you're doing your online banking and there's one more little click that you need to do to take you to your credit profile or whatever they call it at your particular bank or credit union. And it's right there in front of you. You can do it, check on it every time you log in to schedule some payments or whatever, pay your rent, and just kind of monitor it and say, okay, we're doing good. I don't see anything new that doesn't belong. And that will keep you up to date. With today's technology, it's not a matter of having to pull your credit report once a week, every single week. There are tools that can help you monitor your credit without making it an extra task that you have, because we all have plenty of tasks to do already with everyday life.
Yeah, it seems like it's super complicated, and believe me, like first couple times we looked at it, I looked at mine, it was like, what happened here? But it really doesn't. If you just look at those few things and just stay on top of it at least twice a year, I would recommend, just to make sure. And I will tell you just exactly, I mean, for this very reason, my kids who have bank accounts, both were had fraud, and they were siphoning money out of their bank accounts. We just found out last night, which is crazy. My daughter had $70 in her bank account, and we got an update from Bank of America that she was low at $10. And they had found out that somebody got their debit card numbers. So that stuff can happen all the time. So it's really important that we try and stay on top of that. It's shame on me. I keep track of my wife's and mine, but I forgot to keep track of my kids' bank accounts.
Yeah, and it can happen. If you have a very common name, you also want to be particularly careful. like the Sarahs of the world, like my wife, where every time we go anywhere, there's two other Sarahs. It's something where if you have a very common first and last name combination, especially, you want to pay close attention because you can accidentally have someone else's information put onto your credit report. So it's not like you're not dealing with identity theft. It's a genuine accident. And you can go ahead and request for that to be removed. You just don't want to not pay attention to it and find out that you have information on there when you're in need of your credit, when you're getting ready to use your credit for something.
Right. And I think we should also remind everyone that if you want your credit report looked at and gone over with, we have somebody at DebtWave Credit Counseling that can help you with that as well. Crystal can help you, work with you, and she does that for free. So if you want to look at anything in particular, she can help you with that.
Yeah. So Chase, we have a question from the Facebook feed. What is the difference between a free credit report monitoring I get from a data breach and ordering a credit report?
There's no real difference. That is the vehicle for people to go to that they get for free. That annualcreditreport.com that we showed at the very beginning. There is no difference. If you have a credit monitoring service that is helping you and they pull those credit reports, it's pulling from the same place. It just might, it has a different title on it because of where you're, the company that's pulling it for you, but it will come from TransUnion, Experian, or Equifax.
Yeah. So as long as if you have one of those, try and determine which one of the three credit reports they're using, if they're only using one, and then make sure that you monitor the other two, because as Chase mentioned earlier, they may not always have matching information, and you may only have errors on the one that you're not monitoring. And that might be the one that they use at the car dealership, or, when you're applying for a loan or whatever it is.
Yeah, I actually had a friend who got a really good deal on a car, and they just happened to pick his Experian report, and he was nervous because he thought he was going to get this higher interest rate, and it ended up that the information was only on his TransUnion report. So the car dealership never even saw that. Now that doesn't happen with mortgages. They do it they pull the information a much different way. But it's roll of the dice, I guess.
Yeah. We have another question here from Facebook. Will my credit report look different from the different bureaus?
I think that's a great question.
Yeah. Aesthetically, it may look a little bit different, the layout, the coloring, that kind of thing, but the information that's within it is going to be the same. So it may not look exactly like this example. It may have, but for the most part,
it will be very similar.
It's going to look very similar. It's going to contain the same information for those accounts.
Great question.
All right. I have another one here from Facebook. If I'm married, does my spouse's information show up on my report?
It should not. No, it shouldn't. The only way that your spouse's information will show up on your report is if you both are on that account. So it'll have an account name, and then it will have who is on the account. So it could be, and it'll say what kind of an account is it. It will mention that it's a co-signed account. So it'll have like both names on it. Correct.
If you get a mortgage with your spouse, then your information will show up. That information will show up on both your reports. If you both went into the car dealership, things of that nature, it may show on your identifying information a little line that says spouse and then have their name. If you do have them marked down as spouse on certain co-signed things. But other than that, their accounts that are individually their accounts are not going to automatically merge with your accounts. It doesn't, marriage doesn't do that.
And on this sample, you'll see on the all the way on the right column at the bottom, which is not super long, it says responsibility, and then right underneath it, it says individual. If that was another, it would say cosign. And if you were the cosigner, it would say cosigner.
Yeah.
Good question.
Great questions, though. Any other? I guess
any other questions?
Slide.
All right.
And ahead and switch
Oh,
to the
so
questions.
peaceful.
Yeah.
So, well, if there aren't any other questions, we'll hang around for a little bit. But Phil, that was thanks a lot very much for that information. I want to remind everybody as well that you can join us again for our next Smart with Your Money Live. It is next Wednesday, November 4th, again, 1 p.m. Eastern and 10 Pacific. And we're going to talk about credit scores, myths versus reality. And 2 weeks after that, we're going to talk about ways that you can prepare for the holiday shopping, and how to budget for those.
Should be a fun one. It's a very important one.
Very, very important one. So again, next or 2 Wednesdays from now, November 4th, credit scores, myths versus reality. Thank you everybody for joining us, and we'll see you next time.